The coldest thing Lisa had ever touched wasn't a winter window pane or a forgotten key from a deep freeze. It was the hand of a doll. Its small, worn hand felt like old bone and dried clay, an unnatural chill that had nothing to do with temperature and everything to do with a quiet, patient hunger. The hand belonged to Lucy, the Labubu doll that had been her daughter's obsession. The thing was, Lisa hadn't bought Lucy from a toy store. She'd found it in a curio shop, and it had been the worst mistake of her life. This led her to the place. It wasn't on her route exactly, but a detour she'd been tempted to take for months. A curio shop tucked between a pristine minimalist cafe and a dry cleaner. Its windows so grimy they looked like cataracts. There were no bright displays or cheerful advertisements. Only a single, tarnished brass bell that announced her arrival with a sound that felt less like a chime and more like a groan. The air inside was not merely cold, it was damp and thick, a soup of forgotten decades. It smelled of mildewed paper and something sickly sweet, like dried flowers left too long on a tombstone. Her shoes scuffed across a floorboard so old they whispered secrets with every step. The store was a cluttered labyrinth, its shelves a jumble of discarded lives. Silent grandfather clocks, their faces frozen in a rictus of permanent midnight. Glass jars held things that looked disturbingly like preserved organs, bobbing gently in a murky liquid. A flock of cracked porcelain dolls with hollow painted eyes sat on a high shelf, their permanent smiles a silent, desperate chorus. Lisa's rational mind, the mind of a systems analyst, screamed at her to leave. But the promise she had made to Lily was a louder, more insistent voice. A figure emerged from the deep shadows at the back of the shop. He was a man more of sharp angles than soft flesh. His chin was a point, his elbows were knobs, and his face was a roadmap of wrinkles that creased and deepened when he spoke. He looked at her not with the practiced eagerness of a salesman, but with a quiet, knowing pity.
"Lost something, ma'am,"
he rasped, his voice a dry, papery whisper.
Do you happen to have a Labubu doll?
She asked, her voice faltering slightly, a tiny tremor of fear running through her. The man's grin widened, and it was a horrifying thing, a tear in his face that stretched impossibly far.
"The little ones like them, don't they?"
His words a conspiratorial secret. He reached under the counter and pulled out a lumpy, shapeless bundle wrapped in what looked like an old, stained oilcloth. He unwrapped it with the delicate, almost reverential slowness of a priest unwrapping a holy relic.
"I have something better, the first ever made, before they were polished and sanitized from mass consumption. From a time when toys were more than just things to be sold."
Lisa's breath hitched. This was no toy. The cheerful, bright colors of the dolls she had seen in commercials were absent. This one was a muted, sickly gray, its fabric worn and patched with coarse, uneven stitches. Its head was too large, lurching from side to side on its too thin neck, and its limbs looked disjointed, almost broken. Its expression wasn't soulful melancholy, but of a quiet, patient hunger. But it was the eyes that truly unnerved her. They weren't glass or plastic, but two chips of what looked like raw, dark amber, and they seemed to catch the scant light in the room and hold it. A cold dread settled over her, thick and suffocating. But the image of Lily's beaming face, her innocent anticipation, pushed Lisa to ignore the gnawing fear.
A child will never know the difference,
she whispered to herself. Lily's elation when she saw the doll, which she immediately named Lucy, was so pure and bright that for a brief, fleeting moment, Lisa almost forgot her unease. The first sign of trouble was subtle, a whisper carried on the cold night air. Hours after Lily was asleep, a faint sound drifted from her room. It wasn't the sound of an inanimate object or a creaky floorboard. It was a rhythmic, almost lyrical whisper. A low, chittering laughter that was too low for a child. Lisa crept to the door, her heart a frantic drum against her ribs. She pressed her ear to the wood, and the sound stopped abruptly, as if an old record player had been turned off mid-note. She opened the door, and Lily was sleeping soundly, the doll clutched tightly in her arms. Lisa was a woman of reason, a systems analyst, a planner, and she told herself it was just the wind, a trick of the old house. The next day, the doll's influence became more pronounced. Lily, who had always been a quiet, gentle child, was now fiercely possessive of Lucy. She wouldn't let her father, David, a man whose easygoing nature had always calmed her, even look at the doll. When he playfully tried to tickle it, she let out a cold, chilling scream and bit him, a frantic, unthinking motion. He was shocked, and so was Lisa. But they wrote it off as a one-time thing. The doll sat at the dinner table in a small chair Lily placed for it, its amber eyes seeming to watch them eat, its head cocked to the side as if listening to their conversation. A week later, the school called. Lisa sat across from the principal, a kind, tired woman named Miss Reynolds.
Ms. Miller,
She began, her brow furrowed with concern.
Lily bit a boy on the playground. She said he was trying to take her doll, and when we took it away, she had a full-blown tantrum.
When Lisa confronted Lily, the little girl looked at her with a calm, flat expression that was utterly alien. Her eyes were not the bright, inquisitive eyes of a 5-year-old, but a dull, empty slate.
Because Labubu told me to.
She said, as though she were reciting a lesson.
He said it was our secret. He said I need to do what he says so he can be happy.
The days bled into a terrifying monotony of escalating strangeness. Lily no longer played with her other toys. She would sit for hours, completely still, the doll on her lap, its head in her small hands as if in consultation. Lisa would find her daughter staring at her with those same dead, unblinking eyes, a quiet, almost smile on her face. Her voice had changed too. Sometimes, it would adopt a deeper, huskier tone that sounded disturbingly like the old man from the shop. She started humming a strange, tuneless little lullaby Lisa had never heard before, a discordant melody of 3 notes that would repeat endlessly. David, her husband, remained a skeptic.
It's just a phase, Lisa. Kids get attached to toys. You're overtired.
His dismissal only deepened her sense of terrifying isolation. The final straw came on a rainy Tuesday. Lisa walked into the living room to find it a battlefield. All the books from the shelves had been pulled down, their pages ripped out and scattered across the floor like bloodless confetti. Lily was there, humming her strange tune, a faint smirk on her face. A single word, scrawled on the wall in what looked like Lily's own blood from a scraped knee, was chilling in its simplicity. Mine. It was a declaration of ownership, not just of a room, but of a soul. In a blind panic, Lisa grabbed the doll, the worn fabric feeling strangely warm against her hand, and raced out the door. The old shop was exactly where she had left it. She shoved the door open and slammed the doll on the counter,
Take it back.
her voice shaking with a tremor that ran from her core to her fingertips.
You need to take it back. It's evil.
The old man emerged from the back, his grin a horrible, silent thing. He picked up the doll, turning it over in his gnarled hands.
I'll gladly take it back, but it makes its own choices now.
He looked at her with those knowing, hateful eyes, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper.
It chose her. It's already part of the family, a part of a greater thing.
Lisa, her mind a frantic mess, left the shop and drove home in a haze of disbelief. The world felt thin and unreal, as if she were a character in a bad dream she couldn't wake up from. She pushed the front door open, ready to collapse into a weeping heap, and then she saw her. Lily was in the living room playing. On her lap she was holding the Labubu doll. It was identical. The same worn gray fabric, the same patch, the same 2 amber eyes that seemed to glow. It sat with its head cocked to the side, its silent, patient hunger a palpable thing in the room. Thinking she was finally, irrevocably losing her mind, Lisa snatched the doll and ran out to the street. She threw it with all her strength into the neighbor's industrial-sized trash bin, a metal receptacle that smelled of rot and decay. The clang of the lid closing felt like a final, desperate punctuation mark. She leaned against the bin, gasping for air, tears streaming down her face. She would be free. They would be free. That night, the whispers returned, no longer faint. They were a low, chittering sound, like the frantic scrabbling of 1,000 tiny kittenous legs. It was coming from the hallway, and it was getting closer. Lisa sat up in bed, a cold sweat beating on her forehead. The sound was not in her mind. It was real. She got up from the bed, her body trembling, and peered around the corner. The sight that greeted her broke something deep inside her. Lily was standing in the kitchen, her back to the hallway, her small body hunched over something on the floor. The cat, Mittens, lay still and broken on the tiles. A dark, viscous pool spreading around him. Lily's hands, smeared with blood, were held out in a grotesque pantomime, as if offering a sacrifice.
Why?
Lisa choked out, the word a raw, bleeding thing.
Why did you do it?
Lily turned, her face a mask of serene, terrifying detachment. Her eyes were not her own. They were wide and blank, like two pools of ink, and they seemed to reflect a horrifying, alien intelligence.
The Labubu told me to.
She said, her voice a flat monotone.
It needs to feed.
A low, scraping sound from the shadows behind her made Lisa spin around. The creature that emerged was no doll, no toy. It was a nightmare given form, a terrible, hungry ghost. Its body was small, but its head was impossibly large, lurching from side to side on its slender neck. Its skin was not fabric, but a wrinkled gray flesh that looked like decaying paper. The amber eyes were twin points of malevolent fire, and they were set deep within two empty sockets. The mouth was a horizontal gash that ran from ear to ear, a rictus of pure, unimaginable evil, filled with a multitude of needle-thin, chittering teeth. It didn't walk. It scuttled, its gangly limbs moving in a jerky, insect-like motion. It was the doll, but it was a thing of ancient, consuming hunger. It grinned, a silent, terrible gesture of victory. And then, with a sound like a wet crunching, it lunged forward, the scraping sound of its limbs on the floor echoing in the silence as the lights went out. The next day, the police started investigating. But no one knew about the doll, resting in an odd little shop across town, waiting for its next little friend. Like the video? Subscribe now to the Lore Creeper channel and be amazed by the mysteries of the unknown.